Ooh. What is going on, guys? How you doing tonight? And I used to do this every tour stop, do it twice. How are we doing tonight? If you don't know who I am, my name is Jobob. I'm a comedian, a TPUSA contributor. I also host Turning Point's Turning Point Tonight show. But most importantly, especially in this context, for the last 3 years, I had the honor and privilege of opening and being the opening act and touring the country with my friend Charlie Kirk. This is my first tour back. And I'll be completely frank with you guys. I talked to just about everybody here who has worked on this tour for as long as I have, if not longer than that. And there's no real good term here that I was able to tell them what it's like. The fact that I'm not making stupid jokes and Charlie's not coming on after me. And the only thing I can come up with is it just sucks. It just sucks. But you know what each and every one of the Turning Point staff told me? Yeah, it does, but look around. Look at each and every one of you here that Charlie impacted, yes? In trying to figure out what to say here, I think I wanted to tell a couple stories about my friend Charlie. And I hope that this kind of illuminates the kind of guy that he was, what he was attempting to do and did do in the conservative movement. And I think it best starts out with how I got wrapped up into this Turning Point bubble. A couple years ago, started filming ridiculous videos in my garage. I was a conservative guy, and I was making a bunch of videos about, I hate paying taxes, I hate the government, and I hate paying taxes. Yeah. It was pretty much those three things. And I posted them online, never really thinking anything of it. And a couple months later, I got an email from Turning Point saying, hey, we'd love to have you on the Turning Point Live TV show. It's called TPUSA Live, and they said, we'd love to have you out to Phoenix. So this, at this point in time, I was not in the conservative movement, really. I thought this was a great opportunity. So I decided to go to Phoenix. I did a couple episodes of the show. And for whatever reason, Turning Point and Charlie decided, hey, would you like to become a contributor here at Turning Point USA? And again, coming from not this industry at all, this is not what I did, I thought, yeah, this would be a great opportunity. And so I did it. I became a contributor at Turning Point USA. Fast forward a couple months. We were in Dallas, Texas at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. Anybody here was at YWLS? It's a travel, it's a distance. What I have done in the past, though, is a bunch of people cheer, and then I wonder why the men are cheering. And then it's also weird because I'm about to tell you why I was there. It's not what you think. So we're at our Young Women's Leadership Summit, and the keynote address for that event was going to be a conversation between Charlie Kirk and Matt Walsh. We're all fans of Matt Walsh. Yes. So at this point in time, this is at like the height of Matt's What is a Woman documentary. He's touring the country, asking the most difficult questions. What is a woman? And so I think he had an event earlier in the day. The keynote address was supposed to start about 7 p.m. And around 6:40, one of the producers at Turning Point comes over and finds me and says, hey, Charlie wants to talk to you backstage. So I go backstage. And at this point in time, you know, I've been working at Turning Point for a little bit. I've had my run-ins with Charlie, but I don't really know him all that well. You know, he's a busy guy. I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're not really like friends necessarily. I go backstage, and Charlie says, you're a comedian, right? And I said, yes. Now, some context here. I had done stand-up comedy for 5-6 years, but I was really just doing open mics. To call myself an established comedian at this point in time would be a fantastic exaggeration. But I confidently said, yes, I am a comedian. And he said, great. Matt's running about an hour late. Can you go on stage and stall for time? I said, yes. Now, I thought I had some pretty good composure there. But look, I was a comedian at that point in time in the same way that, like, Joe Biden was a president, right? It's like, in theory, I was a comedian. But the most people I think I'd performed in front of at that point was maybe 40 people, and that might be overstating it. And now I'm sitting in front of Charlie Kirk himself saying, hey, there's 2,500 people out there. I know you're not Matt Walsh, who they're expecting. Please go entertain them. Now, again, like I said, I tried to keep my composure, but Charlie must have seen something. Because after that, he just looked at me and said, I believe in you. He had no reason to believe in me. Because he didn't really know who I was. I think he had heard that I was a comedian. At the end of the day, that really stuck with me. It ended up going well. And a couple weeks later, Charlie asked, hey, the comedy was okay. It was pretty good. Do you want to come on tour and do this stuff at college campuses and open for me? And I said, yes. And every single time there was an opportunity that Charlie presented with me, my mind always went back to that one moment where he very simply said, I believe in you. And like I said, there was no reason for him to do that. In reality, what I think was happening is indicative of who he was as a person. He didn't know what I was doing. He didn't know what I was going to say. He didn't know about my comedic history or lack thereof. He simply believed in me because I was a part of the conservative movement. And so because of that, I can confidently say to all of you here that whatever your role in the conservative movement is, Charlie also believed in you. Doesn't matter if you're running a super small chapter on a campus, Charlie Kirk believed in you. It doesn't matter if you're fighting with your administration because they can't get college or chapters on their specific campus. Charlie Kirk believed in you. No matter how big or small your job was in the conservative movement, Charlie Kirk believed in you. Yes? Because that was who he was. Now, I have another story, and this one's a little bit more whimsical. It also might get me in trouble a little bit, but we're going to risk it. So I at Turning Point, I'm the comedian, the in-house smartass, and that comes with some substantial liability from the higher-ups. Meaning that, if you're going to do comedy correctly, you're going to have to push some boundaries a little bit. And that just kind of comes innately to me. I think of everything in terms of jokes. Like, for my own amusement, sometimes I'll go on Instagram and type in the hashtag LGBTQ. And I'll scroll down and I'll find a photo and I'll comment, that's gay. Just because I think it's funny. See, and then people will comment back, that is so offensive. And I say, I'm stating a fact. And then they'll get really, really upset. They'll be like, there's nothing gay about this photo. And I'll comment back, sure there is. It's a picture of NDSU. Look, hey, I get it. Usually the rival schools are further driving distance, but I recognize that some of you might have made the trek up from Fargo. So just know that everybody here, because you're a part of the conservative movement, it doesn't matter that you're a part of the LGBT NDSU. We love you just the same. So that's the kind of menace I am. And so there's a lot of times where I like to make jokes. And again, to the higher ups at Turning Point, I'm kind of a liability. But this one story that I want to tell you happened a couple weeks ago, very, very recently. And what happened was I recorded a video. Somebody put out a ridiculous, absurd video. And I was like, that's insane. I need to record a joke to that. So I did, and I was planning on posting it later that afternoon. But before that, I sent it to a producer at Turning Point who I knew would love the joke, but I also knew that he didn't have social media, so he wouldn't see the joke. A couple minutes later, he texted me back, bro, that's hilarious. Also, hold off on that. I gotta make sure that's okay. Turns out he sent it to his boss sent it to their boss sent it to their boss, and ultimately it got to Charlie. This ridiculous joke that I didn't think anything of made it all the way to the top. I'll tell you what the joke is. Okay, so we all remember the American Eagle debacle with Sydney Sweeney, yes? Yeah, the libs put us in a very challenging position of having to defend that Sydney Sweeney is hot. It took some skill, grit, and heterosexual males with two eyes to prove that point. But of course, that was a crazy scenario, right? So the Sydney Sweeney thing happens, and you see all these types of videos. They're fascists. They're Nazis. Because she's hot, they're white supremacists. We all remember this. But there was one video in particular that I thought was so egregious and absurd, I couldn't help but mock it. It was this video of this girl who happened to be black. And the person filming the video, she was outside of an American Eagle, said, hey, do you want to go in that store? And she turned around and said, I can't go in American Eagle because I'm black. It's an absurd thing to say, so I responded with equal absurdity. I actually think she's right. I don't think American Eagle accepts EBT. Oh! Now. Clearly, this is a joke. We all understand this. And by the way, what she said was worse. So that was the joke that made it all the way to Charlie. And he texted back, do it. See, and it gets even a little bit further than that because, I totally get it. There's people that are trying to protect the brand. And so some of the higher ups said, hey, we're going to post that. We're going to allow you to post that, but can we add a disclaimer to it? I was like, a disclaimer? And they're like, yeah, we want to make sure that everybody knows it's a joke. I'm like, it's clearly a joke. They're like, yeah, but we got to have a disclaimer. And I texted back, that's gay. But seriously, I didn't want a disclaimer because this is clearly a joke. And again, what she said was way worse than what I said. So I had a better idea. I put my own disclaimer. I sent it in for approval that said, disclaimer, Charlie Kirk himself wrote this joke, but he made me say it because I'm a brown. And Charlie texted back, perfect. Now, this highlights, I think, two things that are very important. One is that we are all aware of the ridiculous slander that has come to Charlie Kirk, especially in the last couple weeks. It's insane, it's untrue, it is absurd. But I think this highlights how absurd it actually is. In the world of comedy, I've noticed that comedians only stray from jokes if they're afraid that it might expose a truth within them. Let me rephrase that. A person who is unafraid of being slandered is only unafraid because they know what they believe. Yes? Only a person who is afraid of slander, or the person that is afraid of slander is afraid of it because they're worried that, well, maybe some of these accusations might be true. Charlie was not that way at all. Only a person who is confident in what they believe. And by the way, Charlie didn't believe in race at all, but was forced to talk about it because the libs can't let it go. But only somebody who is confident in what they believe lets a guy like me pull the trigger on that one. The second thing is that it re-emphasized Charlie's understanding of the conservative movement, right? We've all seen Charlie's debates. You saw him go toe-to-toe with really the best of the best and also college kids. And there's clearly something that brings people to the conservative side of the aisle through logic and reason and debate. But Charlie understood that those weren't the only things that brought people to the conservative side of the aisle. It took other things, like comedy, like music, like entertainment, like arts. All different sorts of factions would come together to build the conservative coalition, and that's what Charlie understood better than anyone else. He brought me on tour specifically because, quite honestly, he made some funny jokes, but people weren't really expecting jokes to come out of a guy like Charlie, so that right over their head. Specifically, I remember we were at Berkeley, and he made a joke, yeah, try being a trans person in the Middle East. They'll give you a flying lesson off the nearest roof. Nobody laughed, because they weren't expecting him to be funny. But here's the thing, Charlie recognized however important he was to the movement, he knew that other facets were necessary in order to build a conservative coalition. And so with that, I want to leave you with this. In the 3 years where I was touring the country with Charlie, there would be so many instances where people would come up, and students specifically would come up and say, how do I get involved in Turning Point? How do I get to do what it is that you do? I say, first of all, God-given talent. I'm kidding. No. They'd say, how do I get involved? And I say, well, okay, well, what is it that you want to do specifically? And they would say, I want to be the next Charlie Kirk. And I understand the sentiment, but I think Charlie himself would phrase it just a little bit differently. It's great to be admired. It's an honor to want to live up to somebody like Charlie. But I think he himself would say, rather than being a version of someone else, instead, become the best version of you that you can be. Yes? It doesn't matter if you're an artist, be the best version of you that you can be. If you're a musician, be the best version of you that you can be. If you're a biologist, you're not going to be on the Supreme Court, but be the best version of yourself that you can be. Can we all agree here tonight in North Dakota that we will be the best version of ourselves in honor of Charlie Kirk? So guys, thank you so much. It honestly has been cathartic being here with you. I'm so excited to see the movement that Charlie started and put his blood, sweat, and tears into grow to the expanse that it has. Just don't let that fervor die. And if I can ask you these last three things, it would be this. Never stop fighting for truth, yes? Never stop fighting for freedom, yes? And never stop fighting for this country. Yeah. North Dakota, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Thank you.